Hello, this is Jenny Clark with Solvability. I'm here with Rich Wilkinson of Unanet. How you doing today, Rich?
Hi, Jenny. I'm doing well. I am having a ball.
Well, I love showing up at these conferences with you, and today we're in San Diego at the Unanet Champions Conference, and it's been a great turnout. I'm just so thrilled to see you here. So tell me what's going on with Unanet and what made you decide to go work with Unanet?
Unanet represents a product that I just fell in love with several years ago. I wasn't able to do much about it at the time because I was deeply immersed in a different product's infrastructure. But when it came time to make a change, I talked to Chris and Fran, and Unanet was definitely where I felt like I could be at home.
Well, one of the things that you and I have always talked about, because we go way back, don't we?
Yeah, don't use numbers.
I know we've been to a number of conferences together where you were speaking or I was speaking, and you used to come to Huntsville for the Rocket City Government Contracting Conferences.
I did, and then recently in Tampa at your GovCon conference down there, and that was a lot of fun. It was my first conference with Unanet.
Yeah, and what we're always trying to do is elevate the user community, give them education, help them learn the things that they need to do to be better at running federal contracting organizations. And so our emphasis has always been on that type of activity. So what do you see that people are really looking for when they are looking at a Unanet type product?
When people come to Unanet, more often than not, they're looking to answer questions for their project managers, not for their accountants. Project managers, for the most part, are pretty simple people. They only have one question, and it's just 3 words: where am I? With most of the products they're using today, they know where they are 2 weeks ago, once a month, for about 2 days. And the rest of the time, they're flying blind. I talked to a project manager the other day that told me he felt like he was driving 90 miles an hour backwards in fog. And that's the way it always has been for them. I said to him, I was talking to a whole group of project managers, I said, what would you give to know exactly, within a certain band of confidence, where you are every morning at 9 a.m.? I won't repeat the answers. They had to do with killing people. They were that adamant about that being their requirement. Just a simple, where am I?
Well, I can totally understand that, and I know having run other systems, I always felt like I'm going as fast as I can. I'll give you what I can when I can, but I've got to wait till this cycles so I can upload it, so I can transfer it, so I can import it, so I can post it, then I can update the reports. And I know I spent a lot of late nights trying to say, I've got a program manager downstairs that's trying to get a question answered to his customer, and I want to make sure that program manager looks good. And I couldn't give him what he needed to, but Unanet really solves that.
They do, because with Unanet, you've got one system, one database, one application, one technology stack, one security model. Everybody in the system has access to it, and they may have access to more information or less depending on their role. But when I put an entry on a timesheet and save it, my boss can see that right now, right this minute on my timesheet. She pulls up a project report. It shows her the project status as of the last time I put anything on my timesheet. Now that's only as good as your timesheet compliance, but Unanet has all the tools to make that compliance as good as you can make it, and that's pretty darn good. We use our own software products at Unanet, and I fill out my timesheet every day. If I don't, I get nagged electronically, and the compliance is pretty darn good. That's that band of confidence I was talking about. But Amy can look at her projects every day and see right where she is within that band of confidence and know exactly where she's going to end up on a project 3 months or 6 months from now if things keep going the way they are. Most project managers couldn't do that if they had to, and so they keep shadow systems. They keep Excel spreadsheets with time in it and expenses and indirect costs. And I'll tell you, like I told a CEO the other day, if your project managers are keeping Excel spreadsheets in a shadow system, they're not managing projects, because you can't do both.
Right. It's making them into just trackers, and that's not their job. Their job is to be customer facing and resolving the issues of the projects.
And unfortunately, a lot of project managers end up being very expensive clerks, and they still don't know where they are.
The other thing that I have run into, and I think this happens every time that I go into a small business, there's always the executives and the accounting department, and there's a lot of clash between that, because every time the financials are produced, the executive says, well, these can't be right. Well, that's because they're 5 weeks behind at least. And what I believe that these federal contractors are looking to do is, could they always be managing 90 days out? When we heard from Sam Soloway today talking about the federal budget, he pointed out that the money's already been spent. And really, in a federal contracting organization, the money today has already been spent 90 days out, because you've got all those people on payroll already. You know exactly what you're spending.
Oh, exactly. And you know who's going to work. You know how much they're going to work. You know what you're going to pay them within a certain level of confidence. And it's not that hard to project it out. What Unanet does that I think is unique is that level of planning becomes an outcome instead of an input. Instead of being a tool that a project manager has to maintain, it becomes an outcome that the project manager gets, an output, just as a byproduct of doing daily, day-to-day business, doing the timesheets, planning out who's going to work on the project and how much. Then the rest of it just happens.
Well, and the process of having all of those project managers put in their planning data means when the company roll-up is produced, an executive can look and say, you know, here it is April, what's our July revenue going to look like? What is it going to be year to date? And they can see pretty well what it's going to look like. And if they need to make changes, actions can be taken.
Yeah, and they can see where projects down at a granular level are going to be in 6 months or 9 months too. In addition, if they're considering a change, say in an overhead rate or a G&A rate, they can plug a number in the system, run a model, and see exactly how that's going to affect their project's profitability 6 months or 9 months or at the end of the year. I can't do that with any other tool I've worked with.
The other thing that I've always wanted, so this is a dream, I don't know if we can do it, but I've always wanted to be able to produce a report that would show me my projected revenue through the end of a contract period, so I could say, oh, guess what? When I'm into the third quarter of the year, these two projects have ended.
Yeah.
I need to know the explanation for that.
What we used to call a waterfall. Here's where this project's going to end and this project's going to end, and I need to find coverage for this many people somehow, somewhere. We have that data. We can produce that report or some other form of output, a spreadsheet, a download, whatever you want to work with, but we can tell you that information. In fact, that's really what we're trying to do with a lot of what we're working with in Unanet. We're trying to take a huge volume of data, reduce it, filter it down to what's relevant, put it in a context, and deliver it to an information consumer in a form they can use to do something useful. Actionable intelligence. It's a neat trick, and they're pulling it off every single day. I wasn't able to do that with any of the other tools I worked with.
Well, there's not an easy button, but there are charts, right?
There are.
What's your favorite one?
I like the utilization stuff, because the reality is if you're doing pure services, and a lot of our clients do, that utilization you live and die by.
Right.
Okay. If I'm running an organization and the organization as a whole is 80 or 85% utilized, chances are I'm making money.
Well, I was talking to somebody about that today and explaining I can see it in a spreadsheet, and I've always heard that 80 to 85%. And I tried to back into it to come up with what it was, and here's what I came up with. If 80% of your total labor, your total payroll every 2 weeks is direct labor, that means you're billable at the maximum, because about 10% of that is probably leave and the other 10% is running the company, G&A or overhead.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
And so you could really see it, and I know when I worked in smaller companies, I could always tell when there was a reduction in the revenue, it was because one of the senior people was working on a proposal.
Yeah, and remember, people are what we sell.
Absolutely.
That's our inventory, it's our product.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing what else Unanet will come out with. I'm so glad that we've got the band back together, and we'll be working together in the future. And there's so many folks that I've worked with over a period of time. So, Rich, thanks so much for chatting with me for a few minutes today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thanks, Jenny. It's
All
been
right.
a pleasure.
All right, bye-bye.